Welcome to Tawlet El Sifra, dinner table. What I wanted to talk to you today about is something personal that happened to me. I belong to a women organization, Executive Women Association, and I was there about 3 years ago, one of the meetings. We have monthly meetings. And this writer, who is also a social worker and also someone who worked at UT, at the University of Tennessee, and she's also had written a book about the cults, one of the biggest cults in the United States, and she had written about the kids of these cults, and it's called Whispering in the Daylight. Debbie Schreiber is a beautiful, beautiful person inside out. She wrote this book about these kids, and she still works with them today after they've grown up, they're gone to colleges, they've gone out, all the struggles that they've been through throughout the whole time that they were there and afterwards. When you live in a vacuum as a child and you don't know, you're not taught what's right and what's wrong. The only right is the orders you get. Even if your brain is playing tricks on you and telling you this should not happen, but this is what you have to do because that's what your environment is telling you. You're forced to be brainwashed into what's right and what's wrong. And I bring this up because today we see a lot of that happening on a much grandiose space. For example, countries, dictatorships, that's what they do. It's a cult on a larger scale. Abusive parents, it's a cult on a smaller scale. There's exactly the same process. And I wanted to share with you that she's sitting there talking about her book and these kids. And the whole time she's talking about what happened to these kids, how they felt, what happened to them. And during that process, trying to get out of that peace, that place that they were in. And the whole time I'm sitting there, I was still married at the time, and I'm sitting there, I'm thinking to myself, this is what I'm living through. This is exactly what's happening to me. Of course, in my case, I got married at age 26. I had already formed my personality. I know what's right and what's wrong. I know how people are supposed to treat each other. I live I'm one of 3 people in the family, and then my parents. I know how men are supposed to treat their wives and wives how to treat their men, their husbands. I know all of that. Yet it did look like what I was living through did not match up. And for some reason, when I've always felt uncomfortable complaining, because I don't want to say that there is a problem that's bigger than me. All my life, I've been the one that actually solve other people's problems. People come to me when they have problems, and I guide them, make sure that they get out of it and live through it. And I've never had a problem, especially personality problem, that I couldn't solve, because everyone I've met before that has always been someone who wants to fix the issue, who wants to live better, who wants to open up, who wants to, especially husband and wives. All the ones that I've talked with before, or not only husband and wives, that any relationship, the 2 sides want to work things out. All they want to do is find out understand the other position and relate theirs and live, grow from it and, pass it, and understanding that I'm not going to do this because that bothers them and that kind of thing. When you live under a dictatorship, you're being brainwashed in a bigger environment. Everybody around you, they want to save themselves. They want to save their future. And so they're fed information. And because if it's a parent, they don't want their kids to to learn anything else, and they don't want, for a lot of reasons, they don't want their kids to suffer, so they feed them that information. In a cult, of course, the information is a little bit more aggressive, and the parents are usually taken by that, and there's a lot of benefits, mutual benefits between the parents and the cult leaders. They want to get promoted. There's a lot of that kind of mentality going on. So when I was listening to Debbie, and she's talking about these kids, and she's talking about the cult and and she actually gave it a name. She called it coercive control. That is a control, undercover control, basically. You're not being controlled in a forced way. No one is coming to you, and of course, in an abusive relationship, it's different. Nobody's beating you up because you're not following the rules, but the rules are fed to you in a very coercive way. You're fed this information and what's right and what's wrong, that actually different than what your impulse says. So, for example, in the case of the cults, these parents, they sacrifice their kids to the leader because the leader is like their God, and this God wants to satisfy his needs by talking to the parents and saying, I've got to have your daughter, or I've got to have your son, that kind of disgusting thing. But the end result is that the parents make it sound to the kids that it's not a bad thing. But then later, the kids develop all kinds of problems because internally they know this is wrong. They feel this is wrong. They know in their guts this is wrong, but they have no way out. Everybody around them is telling them this is what you're supposed to do. It's an abuse. It's a very horrible abuse, but not in the forced way. It's in a coercive way. And that's what she called it. And then later, when I heard her, it just kept daunting on me that this is what I'm living through. This is what I feel like things are not right. And when I confront my ex right now, he twists things around and makes it sound like I'm wrong and he's right. All the rage, all the no discussions, every time we have a problem, and then we agree that he's not gonna do this again, and minutes later he's doing the same thing so he just put a band-aid on the issue just to get us to where we talk to each other, not so he wouldn't do whatever he's sorry about. And of course, that means you're not sorry. You just want to keep going. I didn't know what that's called, that personality. I didn't have any idea what that kind of personality is called. I started researching and trying, because I'm one of those people who want to please everybody around me, and he's my husband. Of course, I want to please him more than anybody. Everything I know he likes, I'll go overboard to make it and provide that for him. He doesn't want to. He traveled a lot. When he's in town, he doesn't want to go out. I did everything possible to make sure that I cooked the right dish for him. I did all of that stuff, but then he always found something really horrible in everything. And if I'm not sad or crying or hurt or in pain, he's not satisfied. So I wanted to find out what's happening. Why isn't this one person? Why is it me that knows how to please and make sure that problems are solved? I never thought that I needed time to get to know him before the wedding, before the marriage, because I loved him so much that I never thought that I needed that time, because I knew that I can fix any problem. If we are two people who want to get married and grow old together, then all we need to do is just grow old together. We need to understand each other's position and say, okay, you don't want me to do this? Okay, I won't do it. You don't want me to do this? Okay, I won't do it. And then we live happily ever after. We don't have problems. We don't have yelling and screaming and all that stuff. We live in an environment at home that makes us happy, that we can laugh, that we're friends, we joke, we do, we get mutual things that we like about each other. But I didn't get that. And I was always trying to search within my head and trying to research it on the computer and everywhere. What's wrong? What am I doing wrong? I never thought that he was where the problem is. I always looked at myself. And that's how people in that position get a hold of their victims. Like, I don't want to call myself victim because I got out of it. I'm not part of that. I never thought of myself as a victim because everything I did was my own action. I'm not victimizing myself at all. But the issue is that I felt like there's something wrong in this whole environment around me. My head is turning, and my right that I grew up on wasn't right anymore. So I started researching, and then started listening to radio shows and podcasts and whatever. And then I found out that there is a personality called narcissism, not the mental narcissism, but a personality. And I started researching that, and I found that a lot of that fits my husband, and there was really no solution to that. So I stopped trying. But I was married for 32 years, so it's not like I just decided I'm getting out and I got out. But I was married for a long time. Anyway, so let me go back to the coercive control that Debbie talked about. So when she was talking about that, this is before I decided that, okay, there's something wrong in him and not me, and let me find an easy way to get out of this. I asked her because we belong to the same organization, I asked her one time during COVID if we can meet, and we did. We met in an office, we sat at two different sides of the table, we wore our masks, and we discussed it. And I told her, everything you said was about me. I saw myself in everything you were talking about, and I don't know how to help. I want to help. I am in a better position than all these kids you're talking about, but I do want whatever it is you're doing to actually involve the marital issues too. So she suggested that we would talk to lawyers and law enforcement and get people to know and actually understand the coercive control part of it. And she started this organization, this non-profit organization called Keys to Me, that calls kids and women in need and everybody within the coercive control, and started giving lectures and classes and certifications for social workers, for lawyers, for officers. And this has been like a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago, and she still is doing this. She's one of my heroes. But the point is, coercive control is something that is still new. A lot of people can't put their arm around it. They cannot hold it. It's not manageable. How do you, like, I presented myself in front of people just like I'm presenting myself now. I'm not taking, there's nothing that shows what I was going through behind the scene. And that's one of the things that women don't let people see. But how do we get that out? We need to get to where there's a way where people understand it and see it. And women need to know that I am being coercively controlled, and I am not going to take it. Either you change it and go with what's right and what's wrong, conventionally, rights and wrong, or we're going to part ways. I mean, there are a lot of people that do this coercive control, but they're not narcissists. And you can fix that issue once you confront them and say, look, you're making me do things that are not right, and I'm not about to do it. I did it before to please you, but I'm not doing it. And you need to fix that. You need to grow out of it. Or I'm not, we're not gonna stay together. Most men who want to live together and live happily ever after will understand and move forward. I couldn't negotiate anything with my husband. He was non-negotiable. And so I ended up leaving, and I'm much happier right now than when I was married to him. But coercive control is one of the things that a narcissist has in them, in him or her, and they control their victim with that. There are a lot of women that are narcissists, and they control their kids, and then their kids will grow up and go to become adults, and they don't know how to deal with people, because all they know is how to have these background sound, or they hear these things in their background that says do this and do that, even though everybody around them is doing it differently. And those are things that we need to recognize and see and notice and be able to fix before they step over and go. Most of these kids, this happened to them when they're in college. There are a lot of kids that see college as a place where I want to go party, and that's okay, that's fine. But then there are the kids that suddenly they're given freedom and they don't know how to deal with that, because before that there's a voice in the back of their head that tells them do this and do that, and even though everybody else is doing something different, their voice is saying completely different. And it's not they know very well in their head, I shouldn't be doing that. I should be having fun with my friends, not to do wrong things, because a lot of people will misunderstand me as though I'm teaching kids to go do wrong things in college. A lot of kids do that, and I'm not advocating that. But kids can go and they don't have to be strict with everything that the parents have forced them to do for 18 years in their lives, because they lived under their umbrella, and the mom will always be controlling them when they leave and go to live by themselves. Let them find themselves, let them find their future, let them find their personality. If you've done your job right, then after that, it's up to them to do it. This coercive control, a lot of it is done on purpose, but a lot of it is not, and I want to address both of them. The ones that are done on purpose, stop it. That's wrong. You should be in jail for it, because that's the kind, I think it's criminal to coerce, control your victim, wife, husband, kids, just to get from them what you want. That's not right. Especially the ones that don't learn and keep doing it. And then there is the ones that do it not on purpose, just because I'm a mom, I'm controlling my kids. They've got to be right. They've got to eat. They've got to do this. They have to do their laundry. They have to eat at lunchtime. That kind of moms, those kind of things have to change, because they eventually are going to have their own life, and they're going to grow out of it. They're going to grow in their own self. You've done your job. Let them free and let them be who they are. And you'll be surprised. They'll be wonderful people. If you've done your job right, they'll be wonderful people. Don't raise the kids that don't know how to put one step forward until they call you and say, Mom, how do I do that? Don't be that kind of parents. I'm telling you this because this is what we will do, and we will fail at raising adults. I know that from experience in seeing a lot of people do that in the Middle East, and look at the difference in maturity of people in the Middle East versus the people here. And I'm not talking about what they go through in life, but I'm talking about maturity, because they grow and they stay, I don't want to call it slaves, but they stay controlled by their parents, and that's wrong. Thank you very much.